Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk. Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Crystal Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means. Joining me, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campia.
Good morning, greetings and salutations, everybody. Happy Man of Steel is out in theaters week. Very happy time for all of us around here.
And also joining us today is AMC's production supervisor, Mr. Dennis Sang. Hey, Dennis.
How's it going, everybody? I'm going to go try and see Man of Steel again tomorrow.
I'm going to try to go again and see it tonight.
Because we haven't had enough. So, of course, our leading story for today is the opening of Man of Steel. The new Warner Brothers Superman film flew into AMC theaters everywhere this past weekend and set a new June opening record by taking in $113 million officially over the weekend and $125 million overall. John, you actually predicted the over-under number of $110 million.
I'm very smart.
What do you think about the $113 million the film made this weekend?
Yeah, I am very smart. I stagger myself sometimes. But although I will say this, I set the over under number at 110 million. So I said that's probably where it's going to be, and I took the under, so I was wrong. I was pretty damn close. Now some people will say, well, John, wait a minute. I'm reading in some places 113 million. I'm reading in some places 125 million. Here's how it works. Officially, opening weekends are counted from the midnight screenings on for the weekend. Any special screenings that happen before midnight, like the special Walmart 7 p.m. screenings that happened on the Thursday, and that Dark Knight had as well, and that Avengers had, those numbers aren't counted towards the opening weekend box office numbers. So those opening Walmart screenings took in about 12 million, which is why you get 125. The actual official opening weekend number is 113. It was the same thing with Avengers. Avengers, the opening weekend was, I think, 207 million. But if you counted the special screenings they had the 24 hours before, it was actually more like 220 million. But anyway, official number, opening weekend, 113 million. This is higher than where WB anticipated it was going to be. They've got to be thrilled with this. Now, there are some crazy people, like our very own John Schnepp, crazy man, who try to tell me, no, John, this is going to go north of 150 million. I keep telling you, of course it's not going to go 100, because it was facing an uphill battle. All right, now I've said this before, but let me reiterate. You had Iron Man 3 makes 170 plus million opening weekend because it had huge momentum. Not only was it part 3 of a series, but it was just coming off of Avengers. You know, the biggest box office movie opening of all time. Biggest box office comic book movie of all time as well. And that everybody loved. So it had huge momentum, whereas Man of Steel, we haven't had one since a Superman movie since 2006. And that one, most people don't think of very fondly. I do personally, but most people don't. And so it had an uphill battle. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, though, Man of Steel 2 is going to beat the opening weekend numbers of Iron Man 3. It's going to go north of 170 million because now it's got positive thing to work off of. I think these numbers are great. For the uphill battle it had to face, they, at Warner Brothers, they should be doing songs and dances in their offices right now over these numbers. They should be thrilled. And with positive word of mouth, which most people, this thing's got an A- rating on CinemaSource audience rating. It's got an 86%, I believe, audience rating from Rotten Tomatoes. It's going to have good word of mouth. This thing's going to make them a lot of money, and so they should be very happy. Dennis, how do you see this whole thing?
I think it's great. It's a positive step, especially for the next Man of Steel, which is, I'm sure, going to come very, very soon.
Which we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah. One of our viewers had asked me on Facebook, like, what I thought, and I actually had predicted 130 million, but I was being very optimistic. Right. So, even though it didn't make that, it's still, it's well within range, and plus the positive buzz is going to keep it high in the box office ratings for weeks to come.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's going to keep going versus drop off.
Yeah, I still don't think it's going to be number one at the box office next weekend with World War Z and Monster University opening, but it's going to do well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to do well because people, like audiences, seem to be really loving it. And I think it's just going to continue to roll.
And it seems like a lot of people were really waiting to see what people thought after this weekend before they went to see it. There's a lot of people I know that haven't went yet, so it'll just get bigger. Staying with Man of Steel, a new report from the Wall Street Journal claims that Man of Steel is now being fast-tracked and could be in AMC theaters as soon as next year, and that Justice League is also now being targeted for 2015 again. John, would 2014 for Man of Steel 2 and 2015 for Justice League be too fast?
Well, there's two ways to look at this question, and it depends on which assumption you go by. So let's look at this question. Is 2014 for Man of Steel 2 and 2015 for a Justice League too soon? All right, let's make two different assumptions. Let's start with assumption number one. Assumption number one is that Warner Brothers really has done nothing yet for Man of Steel 2. They have really decided to do nothing except sit on their hands and wait until they see how the first Man of Steel does. So they have no script, they have no game plan, they have no nothing. If that is the assumption that we're going on, then absolutely 2014 is way too soon. It would be rushing it. It would absolutely be rushing it. 1 year to conceive, draft, fully script out, pre-viz, pre-production, shoot the film, edit, special effects, in theater ready in 1 year, too soon. Justice League you could do, because that's 2 years. Yeah, you could do that. So that's if you're assuming they've done nothing yet. However, let's look at another possible assumption that we can make, which actually is the assumption that I'm making. And that assumption is this. Warner Brothers has known full well for quite some time that audiences were going to really like this movie. Warner Brothers has known for some time that this movie was going to make money, and therefore, Warner Brothers, for some time, has been developing Man of Steel 2, and that David Goyer has already got a draft of this damn thing done, despite what he says. If we make that assumption, and a lot of that groundwork and everything's already in place, then no, next year is actually realistic. Is it ideal? Maybe not ideal, but it's not really super rushing it. If they've got their script and their story and their everything in place, Zack Snyder's already signed on to direct again, you've got all your key elements in place, then shooting and doing this whole thing in 1 year is not that far-fetched. And once again, a Justice League for 2015 becomes more realistic. The bigger question about Justice League is, well, okay, can you shoot the film between now and then? Yes. But it will depend on Warner Brothers' game plan. If they want to do what I think they should do, which is introduce Wonder Woman and Flash and other characters like that in Justice League, then you're fine. That's 2 years from now, plenty of time. If you want to go the wrong way and do it the Marvel route by having a Wonder Woman movie first and having a Flash movie first, well then 2 years is not enough time to do that, clearly. I think they should do it where they introduce the characters in Justice League, building on the strength of Superman and Batman. I think that's the right way to do it. And if that's the game plan, 2015 is fine. Dennis, how do you look at this whole thing?
I think it's too soon. I think I'm kind of in the middle in terms of where they're at with it. I think David Goyer probably has an outline and maybe some scenes in his mind, but I don't think he has a full script yet. So I think it 1 year from now is a bit too soon. And I even think Justice League is too soon because I think they need to introduce Batman again because of the whole changeover in the actor and director. I think a Batman movie needs to come out before they do Justice League, because if they do Justice League next after, let's say, Man of Steel 2 and there's no Batman, then this new Batman is going to be introduced in Justice League, and I think people are not going to accept it. I think they need a whole movie to accept this whole new change, I guess. And so for me, I think both are too soon.
All right, well, folks, we've reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Crystal Lee has a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to list them off, and Dennis and I are simply going to say whether we buy them or sell them. So, Crystal Lee, what do we got?
The first official trailer for the upcoming Martin Scorsese film Wolf of Wall Street has hit the web. The film stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, Matthew McConaughey, Jon Favreau, and Jean Dujardin. Based on Jordan Belfort's best-selling memoir, the November 15th release chronicles Belfort's dramatic rise and fall on Wall Street, along with his hard-partying lifestyle and tumultuous personal life, which included drug and alcohol addiction. John, buy or sell this new Wolf of Wall Street trailer?
I'm going to buy it, and it sounds like my life that he's referring to. Yeah, this trailer's terrific. I mean, I wasn't quite sure when I'm reading. I mean, it's Scorsese, it's DiCaprio. Of course, I have decent expectations, but you never know just from reading synopsis. This trailer sold me. And It is interesting. You know, you see Jean Dujardin's name in there. Of course, this guy, we've already all forgotten. This guy won the Academy Award for Best Actor a couple of years ago. And now who is he? And now we've all totally forgotten, which is really unfortunate because he's actually very gifted. I'm going to make a prediction, though. Just from watching this trailer, I'm telling you right now, and I know I've been preaching the gospel of Matthew McConaughey on this show a lot, and some people still refuse to open their closed eyes and see the wisdom that I am departing on all of you. I'm telling you, McConaughey is one hell of an actor. Martin Scorsese sees it. Christopher Nolan sees it. They want it. And I'm telling you right now, I think McConaughey may become the first dude in a movie to upstage Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm watching this trailer, I'm thinking, I got a feeling McConaughey is just going to steal every single scene he's in. I love this trailer. I think it looks great. So for me, it's totally a buy. Dennis, what about you?
Oh, I totally buy this. Martin Scorsese is my favorite director. Leonardo DiCaprio is a great actor. Like you said, Matthew McConaughey is great. He was great in Mud. I hope he gets an Oscar nomination for Mud.
I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic actor, no matter what other people say. And I love the way this teaser trailer is, because it doesn't give you too much of what the story is, but it hits you with all these moments and tones. And I mean, no one's gonna ever forget that brief like second or two of Leonardo DiCaprio dancing on the dance floor. It's just crazy. And then the whole end to it it's like weird and bizarre. So yeah, this is a total buy for me.
And I love that Jonah Hill scene. The girl, I don't work for you. And Jonah Hill, well, honey, you've got my money taped to you, so technically you work for me. I love that shot.
The trailer looked like so much fun. Like the movie's going to have an amazing tone to it.
Great energy to it.
More details about Avengers 2 continue to emerge, and this next bit of news may be the first one some fans don't like. According to an interview director Joss Whedon did this week, Loki, the villain played by Tom Hiddleston in both the first Thor movie and the first Avengers film, will not be in Avengers 2. John, buy or sell no Loki in Avengers 2?
I sell this. Trust me, I trust Joss Whedon, I really do. And I don't think you always have to go back to the same well. But Loki has become a part of the fabric of this Marvel universe. And he's just weaved himself completely into the fabric of this thing. He's a part of it. That doesn't mean he has to be the villain. That doesn't mean he has to be the this or the that, but a part of it. So, I mean, obviously Joss Whedon's got a plan, and I'm sure it's a great plan, but from the outset, for me, no Loki is a sell. Dennis?
I buy it. Loki is so far the best villain that Marvel has had in their movies. But at the same time, I don't think we need to see him over and over again. Would I have liked to see him like in a small role for Avengers 2? Yes, but if he's not there, I'm not going to be that upset about it.
All right.
No Loki gets me really excited that the new villain's going to be bigger and better. The first official trailer for the upcoming Robert De Niro, John Travolta film Killing Season has hit the web. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, a reclusive American military veteran, Robert De Niro, and a European tourist, John Travolta, strike up an unlikely friendship. But when the tourist's true intentions come to light, what follows is a tense battle across some of America's most forbidding landscape, proving the old adage, the purest form of war is one-on-one. Dennis, buy or sell the first Killing Season trailer?
Sell, sell, sell. This is terrible. Watching this trailer made me cringe that two actors of that caliber in it, especially De Niro. And, oh man, like, this is a movie that you would see, like, direct to DVD that Stone Cold Steve Austin would be in. That's how bad it is.
That screams quality.
Exactly. So, yeah, for me, it's a sell.
Yeah, for me, it's also got to be a sell. I mean, and I'm differentiating here between how does this movie sound and how does the trailer look. This movie sounds really quite good. I do like John Travolta as a villain. I especially like John Travolta as a villain, as a matter of fact. And, you know, you'll always take any chance you have to see Robert De Niro on screen. Why not? The purest form of war is one-on-one. Sounds like you're describing marriage, but sure, it works too in a forest battle. Why not? But the trailer is terrible. It is a terrible trailer. Maybe this is one of those circumstances where terrible trailer, great movie. Maybe that's it. Maybe they just felt like they had to show all the action stuff in it. But it does look like it was shot on like a 7D. It looks like even the sound quality didn't sound all that good for it. So, but, you know, maybe the movie will be fine. But the trailer for me is a sell.
Is it horrible that I couldn't get past John Travolta's accent?
I am going hunting.
It was tough. It was tough. Although it has just been rumors up until this point, it has been confirmed that actor John C. Reilly has joined the cast of the upcoming Marvel film Guardians of the Galaxy and will be playing the leader of the Nova Corps, Roman Day. Reilly joins Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista, Zoe Saldana, Michael Rooker, Glenn Close, and Benicio del Toro in the film that will lead directly into Avengers 2. John, buy or sell John C. Reilly joining Guardians of the Galaxy?
I'm going to sell it. I love John C. Reilly. I love all things Marvel. Really look for Guardians of the Galaxy, but this does not feel like a thought-out cast to me. It just doesn't feel. Look, you got some really good talent in it. Obviously, you got Zoe Saldana. I think Chris Pratt deserves to be a star. I love John C. Reilly. I love Benicio del Toro. But there's something. It just feels like a bunch of people individually picked rather than being picked to how will these chemistries work on screen to me. It feels kind of thrown together. And so for that reason alone, while I love John C. Reilly, and as Roman Day, I don't see it. So for me, it's a sell. Dennis?
I hesitantly buy just because I'm not too familiar with the character. And I like John C. Reilly. And with that group of talent, I'm interested in seeing how they gel together, hopefully. So I'll buy it for now.
All right. Well, folks, we reached that part of the show for buy and sell. Here's how this, buy and sell. We've already done that. Mailbag. Here's how this works. Listen, if you got a topic or a question that you would like us to address on air, simply email us your question at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Every day we take a few out of the mailbag, address them on the show. We also have another show on AMC, our YouTube channel, called AMC Mailbag. It's a lot more casual, and all we do is answer mailbag questions. So if you send in a question, maybe it'll be on AMC Movie Talk, maybe it'll be on AMC Mailbag. Check them out. So for now, Chris Lee's got a couple pulled out of the mailbag, so what do we got?
Christopher Mendez writes, my name is Christopher and just wanted to say first, great show. I'm hooked ever since I became a subscriber.
Awesome. Thanks, Christopher.
I saw Man of Steel twice and thought it was awesome. I know this may be very early to speculate, but since a sequel has already been greenlit, where do we go from here as far as do you think it is too early to bring in Lex Luthor, or do we go for it since in the movie his existence is already alluded to?
I think you absolutely go to Lex Luthor next. I think that makes the most sense. Now, some people will say Brainiac. Some people, I think that's bigger and grander. If you want to bring more alien stuff into it, save that for another film. I think now it's time just to get terrestrial. Let's focus on Earth, and let's see what happens there. And it is time to bring in Lex Luthor. He is the quintessential foil to Superman. I was totally fine with the fact that they didn't use him in the original, in the first Man of Steel film. Totally cool with that. But now you need to bring him in. It's time for that. Now, how can he, pardon me, play the foil? Well, we know from the video game world and the comics, whatever, Lex Luthor develops this suit of armor, this battle armor. I can't remember what he calls it. That he can actually go toe-to-toe and fight Superman in. So how does he do something like that? Well, listen, if you've seen Man of Steel, and this isn't a spoiler by any stretch of imagination, because you see in the trailers there's lots of Kryptonian and alien ships on Earth. You know what? Those Kryptonian ships were able to do some damage to Superman, and following the events of Man of Steel, there's a lot of Kryptonian technology laying around now, especially around Metropolis. And, one of the big industrial billionaires, Lex Luthor, can come just in and get his company, take that, start developing crap around the wreckage. I think you've got a storyline there. David Goyer, give me a call if you haven't started writing that already. But I think it makes a lot of sense for Lex Luthor to at least be introduced, maybe not make him the main villain, maybe not, but at least bring him into it. I think it has potential. So that's the way I would personally go about it if I was directing it. Oddly enough, I'm not. But that's how I would do it. Dennis, how would you do it?
Yeah, I definitely would bring him into it, either as the main villain or at least someone that they're showing that's going to be a villain in a future Man of Steel movie. And definitely I think they have to tie in some sort of the kryptonite aspect, however they're going to take kryptonite, because it wasn't really introduced in Man of Steel. So I think that's going to have to play into how he's going to be able to fight Superman. Because, just as a person, even if he's like a smart businessman, he's not going to go toe-to-toe with Superman. So something like the suit that you're talking about, combined with kryptonite, I think that's really the only way to have him as the main villain. I think
one of the readers brought up a really interesting point to me, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of the person who did, but they can say, you could even introduce Lex Luthor and a Bruce Wayne at the same time, because they're both big industrial billionaires who probably travel in the same circles to some degree, one on one side, one on the other. So it may open up the door for that as well, possibly.
Yeah.
And you have to think they're going to when you saw the Lex Corp on the side of the tanker right before it blew up. It's like they're putting the name there. You have to think they're going to.
And the Wayne logo on the satellite in space. I mean, they've opened the doors.
Konstantinos Kostis writes, "Hey guys, I've been watching your show for several months. I loved Man of Steel, but does it, along with the Dark Knight trilogy, verify that Marvel is more true to the comics than DC?"
Okay, thank you so much for the question. But I gotta tell you, it's this type of question that gets me frustrated. Because we say this all the time. The question is asked as if there's some importance to being true to the comic. There's not. There is no importance to staying true to the comic when it comes to small details. Not important at all. Because comic books are comic books, movies are movies, they're two totally different mediums, and you say, stay true to the Wolverine story. Well, which Wolverine story? There's like 18 different variations of the Wolverine story as you go back to the 60s, looking at the dude. Stay true to the Superman costume. Which Superman costume? There have been like 25 different variations of the Superman costume in the comic books alone, so which one are you talking about staying true to? It's not important. I've said this before. The only thing that's important is take the key essential elements to who the character is and make sure you bring those to the big screen. Is Marvel more true to the comics than DC? Well, let's look at Man of Steel for a second. In the comic book, here are the key essential elements to Superman, all right? He is a child born of a foreign alien planet, Krypton, to a father named Jor-El, of a dying planet. The father, to save his son, sends his son off to planet Earth. When he crash lands on Earth, he's found by Ma and Pa Kent, who raise him to hide his identity, protect him, and keep him safe out of fear that the world wouldn't accept him yet. He grows up, discovers who he is by finding alien technology, that he is Superman, and he's destined to kind of lead mankind into a brighter age and stand for truth, justice, and the American way. That's the key essential elements from the comic book. Does Man of Steel do that? Yes! Note for note, it gets all those key essential elements. Lois Lane didn't have brown hair. Who cares? It's not important. And if you pretend like it's important, you have no freaking clue what you're talking about. Oh, Lois Lane shouldn't find out he's Superman so soon. It doesn't matter. That's not important. That's not a part of the key essential elements to the story and who Superman is. I've already listed off what the key ones are. Did Man of Steel follow it? Absolutely. Let's look at The Dark Knight. Bruce Wayne is a child born of a very rich family who brutally has to watch his family murdered in front of his eyes. He grows up with that scarring who he is, and he creates a facade. He learns everything he can about how to fight evil and whatever. At some point, through a traumatic experience he had in a cave with bats, he adopts his new ego of Batman, who starts to terrorize those who terrorize others. That's the key essential elements to who Batman is. Does Batman Begins and The Dark Knight follow those key essential elements? Absolutely it does. Oh, the Joker doesn't do this. Who cares? That's not important. It's not the key essential element. This ain't the comic books. This is the movies. This is what works. So... And I can say the same things about Thor. I can say the same things about Captain America. So when you ask me, oh, does Marvel stay more true to the comics or does DC stay more true to the comics? The answer is it doesn't matter because it's an irrelevant comparison. It doesn't matter. Just take the key essential elements to who the characters are and make the best movie that you can. In the case of Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and the Avengers and Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and Man of Steel, they all do that. They take the key essential elements and make great movies, and that's all that counts. Dennis, I ranted on this for a bit. Now you're going to contradict everything I just said?
No. I just think it's funny. It's like, are people forgetting the backlash about Mandarin from Iron Man 3, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because they didn't stick to the comic book there, and there was a huge uproar. Well, not amongst the regular audience, but the hardcore comic book fan audience. People went nuts over that. I think the difference between Marvel and DC movies is that DC wants to take this more realistic approach, gritty, darker in tone, especially now that we see Man of Steel is going that way as well, you know, like Batman did. And with Marvel, it's a little more lighthearted and fun. And I think probably the things that they're complaining about have to do with because DC wants to make it a little more realistic, that certain details they're going to have to take out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, they're not going to have Crypto the dog, you know, and stuff like that.
Thank God.
Why not? No, I'm just kidding.
So, yeah, I think that's what the difference is, as opposed to the whole staying true to the comic book thing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, folks, that'll do it for us. That's all the stuff we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And listen, while I've got you, before you do anything else, Stop what you're doing and click that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news and, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show and our brand new AMC Mailbag show that we do a couple times a week. And listen, go on out and see Man of Steel. It is magnificent. Go on over to www.amctheaters.com right now to get your theater showtime information and your movie tickets for Man of Steel or any other movie. You know what the one bad thing I should have mentioned earlier? The one bad thing about the great Man of Steel success is that everybody's forgotten about This Is the End, the new Seth Rogen comedy, which is, I think, the best comedy of the year so far. So if you've already seen Man of Steel, if you've already seen it twice, okay, if you've already seen it 3 times, go on out and see This Is the End. You won't be disappointed. I absolutely guarantee it. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. And once again, click that subscribe button. I want to thank, as always, our very lovely host, Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Chris Lee, where can people find you on Twitter?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Chris Lee.
Our very own production manager, the guy who makes everything happen here from behind the curtain, Mr. Dennis Zen. Where can people find you, sir?
On Twitter at ThinkHero. And yeah, I also agree. Go watch This Is the End as well if you see Man of Steel 3, 4, 5 times already.
And my name is John Campia. Follow me on Twitter at John Campia. Very simple enough. And thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.